Kailangang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, hanap ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyang ka ng magiting, sa manlulupi, di ka pasisingin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simula, sa langit mong baga, may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisat ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilingig. Ang bituin at araw niyang kailan, ang may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw na walhati pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Aming ligaya dapat may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
T. de la Peña, Academician Rodora V. Azanza, and Professor Andrew Wong. Let us now welcome the National Academy of Science and Technology Vice President, Academician Fabian M. Dairit, our Master of Ceremony for this morning's opening program.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Academician Fabian M. Dairit, Vice President of the National Academy of Science and Technology, Philippines. Before we proceed, let us please rise to have a minute of silence for national scientist Teodulo Topacio Jr., who passed away yesterday. Thank you. Let us now continue with the program. NAS Philippines, in celebration of the National Science and Technology Week, has organized the 41st Annual Scientific Meeting with the theme, Caring for the Country's Carrying Capacity. The annual scientific meeting serves as a leading forum for the presentation of scientific and policy research to identify specific policies and strategies that the government and the private sector can adopt to utilize our vast resources in a sustainable way towards a robust, voluntary, effective, participatory, and integrated fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. This year's scientific meeting will discuss 3 SDG-related goals with particular focus on, first, plastic waste, second, sustainable marine food security, and third, sustainable education, talent development, and retention. The 41st ASM will present an evidence-based holistic analysis of these issues. To welcome us to this special occasion is Academician Rodora V. Asanza, President of the National Academy of Science and Technology. May I call on Academician Asanza to deliver her welcome remarks.
I hope you can see me and can hear me. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Secretary of Science and Technology, Fortunato de la Peña, our honored guest, Professor Andrew Wang of Academia Sinica, Dr. Yuhan Kim, President of EDSA, our national scientist, Dr. Lourdes Cruz, National Scientist Ernesto Domingo, National Scientist Dolores Ramirez, National Scientist Lampican. I'm very sorry I cannot call the names of our academicians. There are 50 of them now, and I think this is the biggest attendance of our academicians. So I'm sorry I cannot call them one by one. We are also honored by the presence of our Undersecretary Guevara, our guest from the DOST, Director Anthony Sales, Director Maborang, Director Laidan, Director Ganal, Assistant Regional Director Zamora, Copy Director Edgardo Garcia, other guests from our government agencies, the NGOs, the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the National Academy of Science and Technology Philippines, it is my honor to welcome you to the 41st Annual Scientific Meeting with the theme, Caring for the Country's Carrying Capacity. DOST-Philippines was mandated to advise the President and his cabinet, as well as the legislative branch of the government, on matters related to science and technology. One important area of concern to the Philippines is its achievement of the United Nations-led Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, which are part of a universal call to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people experience peace and prosperity. The role of science and technology in strengthening a country's economic and national development is undeniable. We recognize the importance of integrating S&T with the government's efforts to attain inclusive growth, protect the environment, and global competitiveness. I am pleased to report that DOST-Philippines has been resolute in its initiatives to contribute to nation building through S&T. In fact, the Academy has been steadfast in providing scientific advice about pressing issues and concerns. This includes supporting initiatives that will ensure that the SDGs will be met by 2030. For the past 3 years, the NASD Philippines has centered the theme of the annual scientific meetings to the Philippines initiatives on the attainment of SDGs. Last year, the ASM was focused on science and technology enhanced transformation for sustainability and resilience. Resolutions generated from the event were then transmitted clean the government, academia, industry, and the civil society. The 41st ASM shall discuss 3 SDG-related goals, namely Goal 4, quality education, Goal 12, responsible consumption and production, and Goal 14, life below water. The topics to be presented under these goals are geared towards plastic pollution, sustainable marine food security, sustainable education, talent development, and retention. What makes these issues urgent? Let me cite an example. The Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, or GAIA, Philippines, showed a shocking truth. We Filipinos use nearly 60 billion sachets a year. The same report revealed that we use nearly 48 million pieces of plastic bags each day. It is likewise difficult to forget the hauling of a whopping 45 tons of trash in one day during the Manila Bay cleanup, which the government did some months ago. Meanwhile, various issues continue to hound our blue economy, or our sea-based or marine-based economic sector. This includes the aquaculture, capture of fisheries, tourism, coastal development, among others. We also have seen a decline and worse, a threat of extinction of our well-loved fish ships, Galugong and Tawilis. Another pressing concern is talent development and retention, especially in the field of S&T. We encountered some issues as some of our highly talented experts and scientists are driven away by a hyper-regulated working environment, drawing from the very strict governance mode, such as the procurement law. We have to note that our scientists have had issues in acquiring equipment materials due to very strict government regulations, which consequently hampers their productivity and our research system as a whole. This year's ASM will present evidence-based holistic analysis of those issues with particular focus on the scientific principles needed to address them. As part of our pre-ASM activities, regional scientific meetings, or RSMs, were held in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao through the generous support and active participation of the DOST regional offices all over the country. Shall we give them a big round of applause? The Secretary, the Undersecretary, and the DOST regional directors. This annual scientific meeting is our way of convening our stakeholders all over the country. We will try to review our accomplishments and needs in relation to the SDGs, identify opportunities for sustainability and inclusive growth, and plan actions and reforms through a bottom-up approach to find solutions to stifling barriers to development. Allow me to thank all of our colleagues and partners from the science community, our distinguished national scientists and members of NAST, including our corresponding members who are here, officials from the Department of Science and Technology, other honorable public servants who are around, the academics, the professionals, students, researchers, community development workers, and all the stakeholders who are attending this event. I am aware that we are about 1,300 strong this morning. Shall we give a big hand to ourselves? Also, our sincerest thanks to our keynote and plenary speakers. May the success of this event continue to inspire more scientists, academics, and those from the private and public sector to stay united in creating a stronger science culture in the nation, Let us work together to enhance our country's resilience so we can achieve a brighter future for Filipinos. Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Academician Asansa. Allow me now to introduce our next speaker.
Before being appointed as Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology, Dr. Fortunato P. de la Peña served as Undersecretary for Scientific and Technological Services at DOST from 2001
to 2014, and Director of the Technology Application and Promotion Institute of DOST from 1989 to 1991. Secretary de la Peña assumed different positions at the University of the Philippines, first as Chairman of the Department of Industrial Engineering, as Director at the Institute for Small-Scale Industries, Vice President for Planning and Development, and then as
Professorial Lecturer in the Industrial Engineering Department, among others. He was awarded as an ASEAN Engineer in 2013. Secretary de la Peña has held a number of positions as President of various organizations, such as the Philippine Association for the Advancement of Science and Technology from 2011 to 2016, was President of the National Research Council of the
Philippines from 2002 to 2007, President of the Philippine Institute of Chemical Engineers from 1989 to 1990, and President of the Association of Management and Industrial Engineers of the Philippines from 1986 to 1988. Secretary de la Peña became Chairman of the United Nations Commission on Science and Technology for Development for a year and served as Interim Executive Director at the APEC Center for Technology Training for Small and Medium Enterprises. In recognition of his committed and dedicated service, he was awarded the Dangal ng Bayan Award, which is the highest award in the Philippine Civil Service, conferred by the Civil Service Commission in 2005. In the same year, he was conferred the Outstanding Career Executive Officer Award by the Career Executive Service Board. In 2015, he was conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy honoris causa by the Rizal Technological University. Let us welcome Secretary de la Peña of the Department of Science and Technology to deliver the opening message.
My warmest greetings to everybody who are now participating in this annual scientific meeting of the National Academy of Science and Technology. Special greetings to the following. We have our foreign guests, particularly we have Professor Yu Hang Kim, the President of the Association of Academies and Societies in Asia. We have Dr. Andrew Wang of Academia Sinica. Of course, I have to recognize the presence of our national scientists who are present here today. We have Dr. Ricardo Lantican. We have National Scientist Lourdes Cruz. We have National Scientist Gabino Trono. We have National Scientist Dolores Ramirez. We have National Scientist Ernesto Domingo. We have National Scientist Father Bienvenido Nebres. We have National Scientist Ramon Barba. If there is anybody else I have not called, maybe we can recognize later. We have also present with us the academicians, the members of the National Academy of Science and Technology. And we have, I have to give special greetings to my former bosses, former Minister of Science and Technology, Emil Javier. Sir, good morning. We have Dr. William Padulina, and my boss for 10 years, Dr. Estrella Alabastro. To the visiting national scientists who are here present, may I just make a special request for you to stand up, the balik scientist, or former balik scientist, okay, or scientists living abroad. Thank you, thank you. We hope your numbers will grow, and we have the officials of the Department of Science and Technology. I will not call them one by one anymore. Our colleagues from the other government agencies. We have here a special friend, my dormitory mate, former Congressman Paras, who is now with the Department of Labor. And of course, we have our participants coming from the academy. I can see NEDA Deputy Director General, tama ba? I can see over there, DG Yusek Navarro of NEDA. Pasensya na yung iba kung hindi ko nakikita. But really, the members of academe, the other representatives from government agencies, and I hope there are also representatives from the business sector, and of course our friends from media. The theme, of course, is very nicely put, caring for the country's carrying capacity. Okay, so we have 4 C's. Okay, when I was at the Mindanao Regional Science and Technology meeting, where our director there, Director Laidan, really organized it very well in collaboration with NAS. I was really very impressed, with the kind of presentations that were made, specifically on that theme, and most of them were actually the results of research and development carried out, or technologies that were developed in support of the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, of course, our National Science and Technology Week theme, which our NSCW, which will be on July 17 to 21, has the theme Science for the People, Enabling Technologies for Sustainable Development. So we can see the consistency of the theme that we have adopted this year, and all of this actually has something to do with carrying capacity. And I am almost sure that the different divisions of the National Academy are taking care of their own sectors regarding carrying capacity. So we have in the agriculture sector, of course, the carrying capacity of our land, of our waters, particularly in food and other production of agricultural commodities. We have our division, for example, in the area of engineering. Okay, although the resources, water and energy, of course, crosses the different divisions, but I would say that the engineering division has a big role to play in this particular area, caring for our resources in terms of water and energy resources and other resources that we have, terrestrial resources. And we have, of course, our division for health, okay, because many of the issues on health also are dictated upon by the carrying capacity of the different resources that we have. And I know that our social science division, okay, can help us a lot in crafting policies in relation to this so-called caring for carrying capacity. I must share with you that in one of the cabinet meetings, during the height of the activity pertaining to Boracay, okay, the last presentation that was made, okay, after all the presentations made in different cabinet meetings, was the carrying capacity of Boracay. And I must cite the work led by Dr. Sanchez of UP Los Baños in computing for the carrying capacity, considering the different factors, okay, even the area of the water that can be used for swimming, the rooms that are available, and all the different factors were considered to determine the carrying capacity of Boracay, which led to the conclusion that it can only have at any day 6,000 tourists. Okay? And the President was so impressed about the computations and the presentation that was made that he was even recruiting Dr. Sanchez to join his team. But really, I think this discussion on carrying capacity is very relevant. Most people would easily understand things if you present them figures. And during one of the roundtable discussions that we had, I think it was sponsored by Picard and Picard, we had this roundtable discussion on Laguna de Bai. And there I again saw a very comprehensive presentation that relates to carrying capacity, whether it pertains to the aquaculture sector, how much it can carry as far as raising fish in Laguna de Bai is concerned, even shall we say, the amount of water that can be used for domestic consumption was analyzed, and of course, related to that were the analysis made on what is the composition of pollutants in Laguna de Bai. I was so surprised to find out that there is so much antibiotics waste in Laguna de Bai, whether these are coming from people or from livestock. I'm not sure what is the contribution, but that I think the carrying capacity has something to do also with the population around the area. Now, I would also like to mention that the themes or the topics that are lined up today are very, very important current issues. I think there will be a session that will be devoted to plastic pollution, particularly in our bodies of water. And there will be a discussion on the blue economy, which I remember, Dr. Guerrero, it was the topic that we had in previous scientific meetings. And I'm happy to note that we are continuing to follow up on these particular issues. I don't like an annual scientific meeting dealing with a topic and it is forgotten already in future meetings, okay? Because I think we really have to follow up and see actions being undertaken. The topic on human resources development is something that we, I think, took up quite comprehensively yesterday in the conference that was organized by our outstanding young scientist incorporated. And really, the analysis and the recommendations will be very useful. I was telling, I don't know whether Professor Dr. Cesar Saloma is here, but andun si Dr. Saloma, yung statistics cited by Dr. Padulina yesterday in his analysis of the performance of our graduate scholarship programs at DOST presented the 2015 figures, but I know that you are submitting, Dr. Saloma, maybe anytime today, the figures for 2019. So keep us updated. I really want to make use of these studies being made by our members of the National Academy, that they be endorsed formally by the Academy, okay? Even if they're done individually, if there is something that can be endorsed officially to us, then that can be the basis for action and policies. And that is exactly the role of our Academy, to recommend policies, sabi nga nila, policy for science and science for policy. Finally, I would just like to give special mention to the ongoing works that the National Academy is undertaking. I may not be able to mention all, but I would like to give a special mention to two studies that are really designed for the future, like the program or the project on Future Earth being led now by Dr. National Scientist Luli Cruz. Maybe that can be explained in more detail later. And of course, the roadmap, ano nga tawag doon? The Foresight Project that I requested NAS to prepare. This is really a Foresight project that will draw the scenario for 2050. Yusek Navarro, it will be very useful for NEDA. from the point of view of the scientists, both from the different social, physical, life sciences point of view. And I think there are other projects that are being undertaken. I just would like to highlight the importance of disseminating this to the public, particularly when they are already completed, so that they know that our National Academy is really doing what is their mandate, and that they will be able to appreciate the work of our academicians and national scientists. And finally, I think my message is something very general, that of collaboration, because the National Academy itself cannot do all the work. It has to collaborate with other institutions, particularly the academe. And in this respect, I really am very happy to see very good results in our own programs in Science for Change, wherein we have the Yusek Guevara, yung ating project on establishing the NITS research centers in the regions, because this is one way of really expanding our research pool, and also in terms of strengthening the capability in the regions. And I'm sure NEDA would like that. So I'm always referring to NEDA because they're the ones monitoring our Chapter 14 performance on science, technology, and innovation. This is the first time we have been included in the Philippine Development Plan, and we might as well do a good performance. And this is being monitored very closely by NEDA. So I would like to end my message here and to extend appreciation to everyone who came here. You will notice that the crowd, the audience is getting bigger and bigger every year. I am sure that it is not because of the venues that we have. Paganda ng paganda, no? So thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much, Secretary de la Peña. May we invite you to receive a small token and certificate of appreciation from the Academy. We will now proceed to the keynote address. May I call on Academician Azanza, President of DOST-Philippines, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Our keynote speaker was born in a rural town in China, Chia, Taiwan, and was brought up in an ordinary family. Through hard work and competitive examination, he entered the National Taiwan University and obtained his Bachelor of Science and Master of Science degrees, both from the Department of Chemistry at the National Taiwan University. Later, he went to the United States of America to study physical chemistry and crystallography in the Department of Chemistry, University of Illinois, where he obtained the Doctor of Philosophy degree in 1974. He then went to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology to do a postdoctoral study under Professor Alexander Rich in the biology department. There, he solved the novel left-handed DNA structure called Z-DNA, which ushered in the new field of non-canonical DNA structures. Currently, is the president of the International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, and he is actively promoting international collaborations between developed and less developed countries. Overall, his research interests include structural proteomics, drug discovery, synchrotron crystallography, structure-function relationship of proteins and DNA. He is an outstanding research scholar, as evidenced by over 450 of his papers that have appeared in top journals of the field. His current H-index is more than 80. With such accomplishments, he was given the Presidential Science Prize in Life Science, the highest honor for scientists in Taiwan in 2017, and the honor of the Distinguished Alumnus for National Taiwan University last year during its 90th years anniversary celebration. It is indeed my honor and pleasure to introduce Professor Andrew Wang.
It's a real great pleasure and honor here for me to speak about sharing some experience from Taiwan. And this is a very kind of exciting event for me. And I can see the vibrancies of all the established and the young scientists here. And I hope in the next 50 minutes I will be able to convey you that what we have been doing, and hopefully we can do in the future, okay? And so my title, hang on, sorry. Okay, where's the pointer? Well, I can't quite see the pointer, but anyway. Title I use is the renaissance of biotechnology in the Philippines. And, you know, I remember when I was very young, I live with the neighbors, they are from Philippines. And, you know, I was very young, but they, okay, great, thank you. Yeah, okay. My neighbors, they are from Philippines, and apparently they are reasonably rich because every weekends they will hold dancing parties and so on for us. You know, as young kids, we sneak around and see, you know, men and women hold together and were dancing. That's very unusual 60 years ago in Taiwan. And that tells that Philippines was very, very rich. And we, when I was studying in the University of Illinois, as the president here mentioned, my lab mates were also from Philippines. Unfortunately, I forgot their name, but I know they studied and they returned to Manila to become professors here. So those are the early contacts I had from the Philippines. But several years ago, when the VP, visited Academia Seneca, when I was vice president, we began to have a long kind of friendship to promote the collaboration between the Philippines and Taiwan. So with this year's theme, caring for the country's carrying capacity, I thought it might be appropriate for me to say something about what kind of capacity building we have been doing in Taiwan over the last several years. Try again. Here you go. But before that, I just want to use one slide to tell you my own background. I'm trained as a chemist. And later on, I turned into studying biology, especially using structural tools. the functions, structure and function relationship of, where should I point? Let me see, oh, there it goes. Okay, as President already mentioned, at that time, in 1979, we saw the structures of this so-called unusual left-handed DNA structure that was ushering some of the new concepts in terms of DNA structures. But later on, in year 2000, I returned to Taiwan from the United States, and then I began to work on protein structures which might be relevant in developing, let's say, new drugs or new applications. So briefly, those are the things we do. Next slide, please. Just push. There goes. Okay. So more recently, I began to work on developing drugs for Alzheimer's disease, and cancer drugs, and a few other things. So I will share some experience and facilities and capacities in Taiwan. Perhaps we can collaborate on those aspects. Well, next slide. Okay, here we go. All right, so one aspect is that we also develop sort of therapeutic antibodies, and we have quite state-of-the-art technologies for making this kind of developments, and hopefully many of the development can be used for diagnosis or therapeutic applications. Next slide, please. So when we look at the two countries, the Philippines and Taiwan, Philippines here in this map here, you can see that it's surrounded by oceans. You have many islands, and so at the northern tip here you have this continent. Okay, so I took a picture here, and in fact, this place is very close to the tip of Taiwan, southern tip of Taiwan. And Taiwan is just a little bit north, and you can see, let's compare them. So in terms of land, Philippines has 300,000 square kilometers. It's island countries. You have 7,641 islands. We have only 4 islands. So those are the comparisons. So there are some similarities, but there are some differences. For example, your population is 100 million, over 100 million, and with an average age, I learned yesterday, is 26 years old. And Taiwan is an aging society, so that's different, okay? And so in terms of education, you are quite good, but I say maybe improve, okay? That's one aspect we can work together. And our healthcare, that's one of the things I led a delegation to visit UP Manila yesterday, and we want to have from Taipei Medical University, we want to have shared experience with the Philippines on the healthcare aspects. In terms of technology, Taiwan is quite competitive, and both of us, we are democratic systems, which have some good and some bad. But one thing quite interesting is that we share the same natural disasters. We have earthquake, we have the typhoons, and we have the similar infectious disease problems and so on. Okay, so next slide. So you can see that there are many similarities, but also complementarities. Now, speaking about how to develop science in a country, and of course, it's best we can do everything ourselves, but that's not realistic. So we seek collaborations with other countries, perhaps more advanced countries like the United States. And so, for example, this new discovery of the black hole, it seems remote from us in terms of the society. Oh, wait a minute, let's go back, yes. So the black hole, for the first time you see the image of it, and this requires very extensive advanced telescopes. So with this Event Horizon telescope program, Taiwan built a number of, or helped build a number of telescopes in very strange area, like in the mountains of Hawaii and in Newfoundlands and so on. So Taiwan actually contributed some of our advanced technologies, like fiber carbons and so on, to build this. Okay, so this led almost 10, 15 years of effort. We, in Academia Sinica, we have an institute collaborate on this aspect, and you can see this is a fascinating kind of a project. But you will see that many popular or public do not understand what a black hole is. So they worry about the black hole, whether it's going to gobble us, the Earth is going to disappear. So your scientists make an announcement and say, don't worry, nothing will happen to us. And so this was announced in April. You can see that not only we need to make wonderful discoveries, but we need to also educate our public as well. So next slide is another example that just recently, in June, Taiwan sent 6 satellites, it's a weather satellites, into the skies. And the satellites were made in Taiwan completely. But we need to get the help from the United States using the SpaceX heavy rockets to send the telescope, the satellites up in the sky. So now it's functional, and it is one of the most precise thermometer in the sky. So those 2 examples illustrated that with proper international collaboration, we can push science forward and make benefit to the humankind. So next slide. Yesterday, next slide, please. We were in a dinner and discussed about a recent discovery, actually from Philippines, and you have rock boring and rock ingesting. How do you call this? Shipworm. And so, in fact, this shipworm is very unusual. It eats rock and spill out sands on the riverbank. And so this is the first time this was discovered. And this is, again, an international collaboration. And Gisela Concepcion sitting right there, and she is intimately involved in this. So we are very curious about this organism and how can an animal eat up rocks. And if we can all eat up rocks, we don't need agriculture anymore. But in any event, so we wanted to look into further into this kind of a wonderful species. So here's another example. The international collaboration is very useful and important. So next slide. Ask about this question now. If you want to make benefit to your people, and so in terms of the competitiveness, where are we? Okay. So here is from, I think it is from last year's competitiveness index, and you can see that in our region, and the country, of course, with the best competitive index is Singapore, and then Japan, but Taiwan is placed number 4 in this region, but number 13 in the world. And Philippines is not bad. In our region is in the upper part of the competitiveness index, and placed worldwide in 56. So clearly, with the resource and the people in Philippines, there's a room for us to collaborate and to make it better, okay? And so those are one of the, you see here are some comments why we are good or bad, and so you can have a look here. And we, in Taiwan, we are one of the region's primary innovation hubs. So this is something we can do in collaboration. So next slide. But to make the competition kind of at a high level, And education, in my opinion, is one of the most important parts, okay? So I'm sure the National Science and Technology Academy here can play a role in collaboration with the university. And you can see the top 10 universities globally, they are either from the US or from the Britain or UK. And of course, this might have some bias, but nonetheless, you can see that they are all from the US or UK. And University of Oxford and Cambridge place #1, and I don't know, this may be because of the Times ranking formulations, okay? And MIT is here, and I'm pleased I was trained there as well. So this is a measure that how the education is for any nations. So next slide, and let's look at what about in our region, in the Asian Pacific regions. And you will notice that Tsinghua University from China now ranked #1, surpassed the National University of Singapore this year. And you can see that they are all sort of English-speaking systems, but still you can see Tsinghua University, Singapore, Peking University, and now Melbourne, Hong Kong, and Tokyo, and so on. So this ranking allows us to think why Tsinghua University all of a sudden becomes highly ranked. But if you look at their budget, you can see that their annual budget is $3.44 billion US dollars, okay? Peking University is $2.8 billion US dollars. The best in Taiwan is National Taiwan University, and we have only $1.29 billion. In Academia Sinica, where I work, of course, our units is much smaller, but nonetheless, our budget is sort of adequate, but not great. How about Philippines? Philippines, you can see that it's $0.327 billion. And so money is not everything, but without money, you cannot do too much. So I would urge our government to put in more resources into our education systems, because that's the best way, best investment we can have. Okay, next slide. How about the academic ranking again? I mean, I already sort of alluded to that without strong funding and the will of the government, it's hard to achieve high ranking in education or in other economical competitiveness. And you can see Taiwan ranks reasonably well. And we have, in 2018, we have 31 institutions, including universities mostly, rank in the top 100 or so. But you can see here in 2019, we have now 32, okay? But Philippines, I think there's only one. That's the University of Philippines ranked in the top here. So clearly, I think there's much more room we can improve from Philippines here to move up. You see, even Thailand, Malaysia, and so on, you have more university ranked higher than you are. And so that's the area we hope to be able, from the Taiwan point of view, to work together and to elevate the status of education ranking in Philippines. Next slide. So if you look at, carefully, now Philippines education is actually very good, and you have a very English-speaking systems. And so here are the top higher education institutions. Again, the University of Philippines ranked among, what happened? Oh, okay. The QS kind of ranking ranked number 72 here in Asian universities. And so there are other universities with very, like St. Thomas, I visited 2 years ago, and they have a long history and tradition of very good, many of them are. And so I think there is great opportunities for the Philippines to train great scientists from these university systems. So with that, next slides, you can see that, so this is an outdated report size because that's the only thing I could find on the internet. And so there was a mission statement that, that 6 years ago, that it states that the goals for the Philippine science and technology by 2020, you want to achieve all those goals. And so we can examine them and to see which part you have achieved the goals and which part not. Then we can inspect how to do the improvement on this. Okay. So, for example, you want to have a world-class university. Look at this is a plural, not just University of the Philippines. Now, you want to have a world-class university in science and technology. So let's work together and make it to achieve this kind of goals. Next slide. So now let's look at Taiwan. Taiwan's SWOT analysis, you can see that we have some strengths. For example, we have major core facilities. In fact, we are talking about biotechnology here specifically. We are outstanding healthcare system. We have very competitive ICT industries and so on. And we have plenty of opportunities to interact globally with either the big countries or regional areas. But we have also many weaknesses. And so those are listed here, and the threats also exist. Okay. So next slide. So with this kind of in mind, let's look at how Taiwan developed its past in the past, say, 20 years. Next slide. And I want to use Academia Sinica as an example. Now, life science in Academia Sinica is one of the strong area. And, even though we started many years ago with the more traditional botany and zoology in life science in the 1962, 70s, but it evolves along the way, and you can see that there are new institutions like biomedical sciences, molecular biology, and so on. But first of all, we started to have national programs in helping the biotechnology in Taiwan. So I will describe some of them. So nowadays, last year, we have this national biotech park open. And so that's an opportunity for us to work together. Next slide. Next slide, yeah. So those are some of the important R&D institutions in Taiwan that helps the development of the countries, not only in biotechnology, but in many others. I want to just point out the one that we have outstanding synchrotron radiation center, and it's one of the best in the world. And I'm sure Korea also has one or two there. And we can, this kind of a large national facility is available to many international users as well. And as I already mentioned, that Taiwan also has 32 good university, research university, that can help to push the science and technology. Next slide. So another kind of model that we can use is to have national programs put in a reasonable amount of money to push a specific area. Like in early days, we have this national program for genomic medicine. And so the genomic medicine was introduced at that time, and I was the director of this program for a couple of years. And later, it was evolved from 2011 to 2017 into a program called National Research Program for Biopharmaceuticals. Biopharmaceutical. So the goal was to use this program, and at this time, we understand that many of the unmet needs need to come, the knowledge has to come from physicians. So we asked President Yang at that time, the National Taiwan University, he is an outstanding physician in lung cancers. And so he led this program and pushed for this NRPB, we call it. And it laid a very good foundation for our biotechnology, especially in the biomedical area. Last but not least, we just started this so-called National Biotechnology Research Park. And this becoming a very important part of the biotechnology development in Taiwan. And I call it, we are building this so-called biotopia. It's like in Zootopia. So this is the kind of a short description of the past 20 years in 3 minutes. So next slide. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay, so some examples that we use this kind of national programs to develop this so-called drug design or drug development process. So it's either use structure or mechanism based, and so we work on a number of areas, including infectious diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, vaccines, therapeutic antibodies, and kind of phosphate kinase phosphatase area. So those are the areas we focus on in developing new drugs. Next slide. So some facilities just let you know that, for example, we have a very ultra-high speed compound screening facilities in Academia Sinica. We have, I already told you about the antibody engineering pipelines. We also have very good medicinal chemistry innovation center, which can help us to design new molecules. Next slide. And next slide, please. Yes. Okay. I already mentioned that I think important core facilities are important. I just want to say something about the structural biology. We have this synchrotron, and you can see it evolves from this small synchrotron, 1.5 GeV synchrotron, into this 3.0 GeV synchrotron. So this was just completed last year, and it's available for international users. And we have high-field NMR. We have also biophysical instrument, and more recently, we just established the cryo-EM facilities. So those are the facility for us to see things, molecules, cells, and so on. Next. And so one idea we have is that we want to use these so-called science parks as a vehicle for economic engines. And of course, our science park, the most successful one is in Hsinchu, and it developed into a wonderful ICT hub for many things. So we want to do now in biotechnology science park. So next slide, and you can see, next slide, yes, that in terms of the biotech industrial clusters, Taiwan is a small country. We have a high-speed rail going from Taipei to Kaohsiung. Only takes about less than 2 hours. Okay, so we can communicate from the north to the south very easily, and we have a different kind of science park, and we have more for pharmaceutical equipments, IVDs, and down here we have also agricultural science park. So those are the park house many companies, which also provide the economical engine for us. Next slide. And so in Taipei, we are building this so-called the Taipei clusters, and it's coming along. We believe in 2 or 3 years, the biotech park here will be completed. And I like to say that it's like a biotopia here. Next slide. One of the important Taipei's biotech park development is this new park called National Biotech Research Park here. We have 5 missions for this research park, and I think Gisela has visited this biotech park while it's almost completed, and now it's completed. We start to move in, and we have 5 goals. Started here from innovation to translation and the sustainability, as well as incubation of companies, and last but not least is the global connects with international countries, including Philippines. Next slide. So here briefly, the NBRP, the National Biotech Park, is actually very close to Academia Sinica, adjacent to Academia Sinica. And it was part of a land from this arsenal, 202 arsenal. The arsenal, since it's a military base, so it has been very well preserved environmentally, and it has 160 hectares. And yesterday I was at University of Philippines, Diliman, and Diliman has 493 hectares, so it's much larger than us. So there's ample opportunity to develop new things over there. Okay, next slide. So this is the area look of the MBRP, and you can see it's clustered here, and we develop to preserve environments as well, so we have lots of nature conservation areas. Next slide. So there are 7 buildings, and I think I'll go from A to G, and the design of this national park is to integrate different kind of ministry into this park, so it will make the drug development pipelines as convenient as possible. We have translational medicine, which the building A, which is here, and building B is for core facilities. So we have wonderful core facility to support the development here. And we have bioinformatics centers over here. And more importantly, we have an incubation center. So we wanted to accommodate somewhere between 50 to 100 companies, and ranging from small company to reasonably large international company as well. And finally, we have a national laboratory for animal center. Here we'll provide all kinds of animal models, mostly mouse models. And this is to validate the compounds you try to make it to become drugs. So they are all in one place, and that is very convenient, also very close to Academia Sinica. Next. So the goal is indeed to, in this particular park, we want to go to up to this stage of the drug development pipelines. Hopefully we can get investigational new drug status, we call it IND, and then pass along to the downstream, maybe companies or other units. Next slide. And so the ecosystem is very good. We have good platform technologies, animal models, and also the kind of optimization process by Development Center for Biotechnology and so on, okay? And interesting part is our TFDA is also located there, so in terms of regulatory consultation, it can be done in one place as well. So hopefully you will we can successfully develop some drug and go into clinical trial. In fact, we have many drugs now in Taiwan on clinical trials. Next slide. So here is the theme related to the theme of today's meeting in terms of capacity building. So what are the other areas of the possible collaboration fields? Next slide. And so in terms of agriculture, now Taiwan now evolves to think about how to develop the next generation agricultural bioeconomy. And so the bioeconomy is kind of an upgrade of the usual thinking, or let's call it agriculture 4.0. Next slide. So here we want to develop like a precision agriculture and worry about people's health. And we want to develop the agriculture by make it into a smart industry. And at the same time, we want to sustain our environment. So those are the goals we are pushing for agriculture. And I'm sure there are plenty of opportunity we can work together. Next slide. Next slide, yes. So here are some examples. The goal is to overcome the challenges of environment deterioration, and we want to develop the next generation industry. So to create a safe and healthy circular agriculture, that's the goal, okay? To sustain agriculture as well as human well-being. Next slide. And so here is to put the agriculture bioeconomy with the productivity 4.0 together, and hopefully we will use the technology innovation, high production rate, industry upgrade, and international competitiveness. Okay, next slide. So that's in agriculture. Let me just use one example. I look at the poster that you have very important marine scientist. So this slide is a little sensitive, but you can see that this region is very
without antibiotics and without other additive. So it's a wonderful and strong molecular shrimp. And so this can be used as a sashimi shrimp. So hopefully this kind of technology can also establish in the Philippines. Next slide. And you can see now we are making into a larger scale development in Hualien, on the east coast of Taiwan, where the water is very good and clean, and some of the areas in the Philippines. Next slide. Next slide, yes. Another issues, of course, is related to environmental mitigations. And this is a recent news that in Cambodia, some areas, the water is really filthy, and people living surrounding this area, their average age is only 50 years old because of all the infections and so on. So Taiwan sent a team, is a voluntary team, to clean up the water there. They use a simple, I think make clean water. And this is after 1 year, the water is still clean. The water coming from this kind of filthy rivers. And so this kind of simple, inexpensive facilities can help a lot of people in our region. Next slide. So environment is an important issue. Next slide, sorry. Okay, in terms of development things I already mentioned at the beginning, that education is very, very important. And so I believe talent, I think the President already mentioned, the talent cultivation and retention will become the issue. In Taiwan, in terms of the biotechnology, entrepreneurship trainings and related ones, we have many programs. Detail for this. Next slide. In Chinese. And, so we have a training program developed by Ministry of Education, and so we want to bridge the gap between academia and industry. So with the support of Ministry of Education, over the last several years, we have trained more than 4,000 students who are interested in entrepreneurship and making them more ready for industry. Next slide. So this, not 4,000, sorry, 3,000 students, but 550 entrepreneurial teams were trained. And so this kind of program can also be set here to train the student more entrepreneurial. Next slide. So another aspect I also care very much is the education for undergraduate or even high school students. So I supported with my foundation here to develop a biochemical experiment video kind of training things. Okay, you will see next slide. Next slide. Okay, so here's one example. How do you do gel staining, right? So this will give you not hand-on, but computer-oriented training for biochemical experiment. Next slide allows you to train. Next slide. How to do develop antibodies, and so with kind of fun figures and so on. Hopefully, the student will become interested in this to learn something about all the experimental protocols and pipelines in biochemistry experiment. Next slide is another example in how to do protein sorting and sorting out. Okay, so it's fun. So this will be an educational toolkits available on the computer, and we will make it available on the internet through perhaps IUBMB. Next slide. I also am interested because my wife and I go to the movie theater every week. At least we will watch one movie a week. But last week we watched 3 movies. So we like movies. So I talked to some of the animation company called Studio 2. We want to make a so-called conquering the orphan diseases. So this is halfway through. It will be finished by the end of this year. And if you are interested in this so-called orphan diseases, in fact, we choose Alzheimer's disease as an example. So this, again, will become available on the internet. And so this is for public education purpose. Next slide. Make it fun, And so we teach whoever watched the movie about new drug developments and explain to them what are the Alzheimer's diseases. And it's animated film, so it's entertaining and so on. And it's also supported by our National Center for High Performance Computing. We have a so-called render farm in there. In fact, this lab has one of the top, I don't remember, top 10 supercomputer in the world. And I'm working with UP Lima to upgrade their computer centers. And so this kind of facility is also available to the student
from abroad. We can, if you have established a good internet system, you can access to our computing power in National Center for Computing. So this will be is supported actually by our Ministry of Science and Technology. I don't know whether you in Philippines you also support this kind of education, public education programs. But you know, I like to watch the movie Growing, and it will be finished by the end of this year. And we were dreaming we will get the Oscar from Taiwan. No, it's a joke. But anyway, so this is another area, public awareness of the science and technology. Next slide. So looking at the future, I think my time is running out. I will go quickly. So in terms of the future of biotech, you know, we need to prepare for it. You have to understand that big pharma is aging, and many biotechnology companies are emerging. And this is, I already described, biotech parks, clusters are growing, like in Boston area, Silicon Valley area, San Diego, European parks, and Shanghai also has a very strong one. And so Taiwan, I already mentioned to you that there are several biotech parks by the fact that it's smaller. But anyway, we need to train people, okay? And we have to do it fast. You know, you need to winning by speed. That's very important. I keep telling my students, don't just sit there and contemplate it. Do it with motions, okay? And you need to be diversified. You need, because the future medical sciences will be treated with divergent modalities and so on, okay? So the academia industry interactions will become more and more common. And so you need to work out all the regulations and so on. Otherwise, you might get into trouble, put into the jail. And so all this you can see in the future. You need to pay attention to. Next slides. Okay, so what are the new technologies? You know, protein research will continue, but intelligent medicinal chemistry for small molecule making is also becoming important, so chemistry remains to be important. Emerging area is in the cell therapies and stem cells, so those are coming along, and Taiwan is catching up with CAR-Ts and also other cell growing things as spinal injury therapy and so on, okay. So, so those are the new technology. We have to keep an eye on them. Next slides. But there are some challenging things that perhaps we can think about. You know, those are some examples. And for example, flow cytometry. Today I saw a flow cytometry instrument in Gisela's lab. But you know, in the future, perhaps we can go up to 100 different kind of antibody to test the variety of markers and so on. So those are the things they need to do. And organelle development by 3D printings and so on. In Israel, we just visited there, and they can print a human heart now, and it actually can beat, can pump. So that's quite amazing. So in the future, this kind of 3D printing combined with biology or life science is becoming very important. And I'm also helping a company in Taiwan, a small company, very small, and using so-called biology methods to do DNA synthesis, not by chemistry. Okay, so we are hopeful that we can make, let's say, synthesize over a kilobase DNA using this new technology and so on. So there are plenty of exciting things we can do in biotechnology. Next slides. But there are things you need to, I already sort of mentioned that the government need to play a role in empowerment in terms of providing more research funding, providing the good infrastructures and so on. Government needs to do that, okay? And so this is part of the government empowerment. We need to get sustained funding, and perhaps in the future, not only from the government cannot do everything. Perhaps you know, from the private sectors, people need to come in and work together and help. And I already mentioned it several times, talent cultivation and retention is very, very important, okay? But if you want to make any industry or any sectors successful, you need to properly reward the participants. If they work hard, you need to encourage them and not to bound them into a very small cage. So this the kind of mindset that you need to do. And this is related to that, the people, the government officers and so on. You need to have a positive attitude toward regulation. Regulation is to prevent you not to do bad things, but you should not prevent it in such a way that you cannot do anything. Okay. And finally, I think this is related to what I'm here. You need to strengthen the international cooperation. So let's just very quickly go over what are the potential cooperation opportunities between Taiwan and the Philippines. We need to cooperate on education. Next slide. Keep going. We can have infrastructure sharing with you. Well, not with you only, but it's a bi-direction thing. We need to cultivate together the interdisciplinary talent. Okay. And medical cares and public health system, I think we can work together. You have over 100 million people here. Many, when we compare the University of Philippines General Hospital, and you have 1,500 beds in the hospital, and yet you have only 500,000 patients going through annually to the system. Taipei Medical School, Taipei Medical University Hospital, we have 3 hospitals, 3,500 beds. We have 4 million patients going through our system. So clearly there's much more we can do in terms of helping our public in terms of health care. And we need to develop next generation biotechnology, not only in drugs, devices, therapy, and so on. There are plenty. And agricultural bioeconomy, and that's one area certainly we can do together. Environment mitigation, okay. And I noticed that you have a session on plastics, and the flooding of plastic material in the world is terrible. But now you even have worms that can eat rocks. So I'm sure we can find many organisms that will eat plastics. So we can perhaps do it together. Finally, I already tell you that to make the country strong, you need to educate the public as well. Okay. So with this, I want to acknowledge many of the postdocs and assistants over the years, and they did all the works. I just opened my mouth. So next slide, and I want to thank you. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So let's do it, the trust in our friendship. And there's a song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the song of Carbon. It says, okay, I'm small. Well, Taiwan is small, but I'm strong, So we can work together. Why? Because, as Hollis says, he ain't heavy. He's my brother, and you are my brother. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this very interesting and timely lecture, Dr. Wang. May we invite you to receive a small token and certificate of appreciation from the Academy. A round of applause, please. Also here on stage is Professor Yu Hang Kim, President of the Association of Academies and Societies of Sciences in Asia. He will deliver our keynote address for tomorrow. Before we continue to the rest of the program, may we request our guests on stage to please occupy the VIP table. Before we proceed, it is befitting that we acknowledge our partners in this year's ASM. The 41st ASM would not have been possible without the generous support of our friends. These are our patrons, sponsors, and donors, the Department of Science and Technology, Bear Crop Science Philippines, De La Salle University, Centro Escolar University, National Fisheries Research and Development Institute, and the Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture. Our exhibitors and advertisers, Philippine Rice Research Institute, Philippine Carbo Center, CropLife Philippines Incorporated, and the University of the Philippines Los Baños Foundation Incorporated. University of the Philippines Manila, Del Monte Pacific Limited, and the Biotech Coalition of the Philippines. Now for a short intermission number, let us welcome the Centro Escolar University Singers.
Dauset honor TBC, Gloria, Gloria, Dauset honor TBC, Gloria, Dauset honor TBC, Gloria, Gloria, Dauset honor TBC, Dauset honor TBC, Gloria, 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 Dauset honor TBC, Gloria, Gloria, Dauset honor TBC, Israel, et mortalis homo et culto, creata simul, vertebri actilicua, venit solia, venit comprege modo hymnis sum, et ibi gloria, lauset honor TBC, ibi basur, salvemon gloria adoris, nos divine et pagibus ecemelos in flacue, accetemus idonos, ex remens, cui bona punta place, et cui bona punta place, gloria, 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 Hosanna, 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 Hosanna,
ng sinta, upo ng papaya, daladalay gusto, sisigla ng bunga, hanggang sa dulo, nabali ang sanga, tapos kapalaran, umarap ng iba, lerong ng sinta, upo ng papaya, daladalay gusto, sisigla ng bunga, hanggang sa dulo, nabali ang sanga, tapos kapalaran, umarap ng iba. Leron sinta, leron sinta, leron sinta, leron sinta, leron sinta, leron sinta, leron,
Bumisika, nene, tayo'y manampalo, dalhin mo ang gusto, sisigla ng hino, pagdati sa dulo, nanamba-nambayo, umapit ka, nene, makakamafu. Leron sinta, 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 leron Kapos kapalaran, umanap ng iba. Kapos kapalaran, umanap ng iba. Aquel canto cae de ser.
Caurà che l'aria basciota, l'aria e colore. Aspadizza con cuore che sia
Aquel canto cae de ser. Presta, denna, presta de sagun, ora in denna. Santos buona Vicenta, quasi in buonasera, l'amico barro santo con gaita. Santos buona Vicenta, si sciupa mistera, l'amico barro santos buona Vicenta, si sciupa mistera, 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 si sciupa mistera. Santos buona Vicenta, quasi in buonasera, l'amico barro beato. Sosa se vale, essa scavellara, si sciupa mistera, si sciupa mistera, l'amico barro santo gaita. Si sciupa mistera, si sciupa mistera, l'amico barro santo gaita. Vai God,
big round of applause for that wonderful performance. Thank you, CU singers. The opening ceremony has now come to an end, and the scientific program will begin shortly, exactly in a few minutes. Plenary session 1, DOST-Philippines Advisory Report. So thank you, and that's the end of our opening ceremony.
Before we proceed to plenary session 1, may we request DOST-Philippines President Academician Rodora Villazanza to present a token of appreciation to Academician Dairit. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. Great start for today for our Master of Ceremony. Thank you. First plenary session will commence shortly. May we request Academician Rodora Villazanza, National Scientist Ernesto Domingo, and National Scientist Lourdes J. Cruz to occupy the seats on stage. A round of applause, please. Let us now welcome our moderator for this session, DOST-Philippines Academician Eufemio T. Rasco Jr.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first plenary session of the 41st Annual Scientific Meeting. Let me now introduce our first speaker, who will discuss the updates on the 40th ASM resolutions, including the Blue Economy. Our first speaker is a professor at the Marine Science Institute at the University of the Philippines in Diliman. She has served the university in various positions, including the first woman dean of the College of Science in Diliman. For her contributions to the biology and farming of seaweeds, which are sources of carrageenan, she became one of the members for 7 years of the International Seaweed Association Council, a rare post occupied by a woman. Dr. Azanza also has more than 70 publications in international books and journals. She has extended her expertise to government agencies and international organizations, concurrently being the vice chairman of UNESCO Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission panel on harmful algal blooms and leader of IOC's Harmful Algal Blooms in Southeast Asia portal and e-learning for 7 years. She is the immediate past Assistant Vice President for Academic Affairs and Director of the Office of International Linkages of the University of the Philippines. The university's Board of Regents has approved her appointment as Professor Emeritus upon her retirement in July 2017. Let us welcome Academician Rodora V. Azanza.
Hello. Good morning again. Wala na tayong boses. Okay. Can I have the first slide? The National Academy of Science and Technology decided that we have this portion every year as we do the annual scientific meeting. We will give you updates on what happened during the last year, meaning what have we done in between that particular annual scientific meeting and this particular annual scientific meeting. So we'll give you some updates on what happened. So the main output of that particular annual scientific meeting and this particular annual scientific meeting would be resolutions. And these resolutions we give to the President, the Cabinet, the Legislative, and to appropriate bodies, including even the NGOs if needed. So I'm giving you a brief report of what happened last year. The first one. So the 40th annual scientific meeting in 2018 was held in Manila Hotel. That is the tradition for ASM, but we were not able to do it this time because of scheduling. We were bumped off. So hopefully we can do it again in Manila Hotel. Sorry, EDSA Shangri-La. So the theme was Science and Technology Enhanced Transformation for Sustainability and Resilience, hopefully at the end of 2030. Okay? The next slide, please. So there were many SDGs considered during that particular annual scientific meeting, and the focus were on SDG 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 15. And those were interrelated, actually not only within themselves, but also within the other SDGs, the 17 SDGs. So the hosts that time were the Biological Science Division and the Agricultural Science Division. The next one, please. So there were regional scientific meetings also held in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao with the generous support of our DOST regional offices all over the country. Maraming salamat po sa DOST, karamihan sa kanila ngayon nandito ulit. These RSMs highlighted the performance and challenges of the regions and local communities in the achievement of the identified SDGs, the ones I have shown you a while ago. The next one. So the 40th ASM resulted in the crafting of resolutions tailor-made for various government agencies and other agencies, even the NGOs as needed, with the intent of providing them accurate and relevant scientific advice, which is the mandate of the National Academy of Science and Technology. These resolutions were transmitted to them. They were accompanied by requests for meetings, and we were quite successful in having them during that year. Actually, our hands were full during the last year. And some of the discussions are still continuing. The next one, please. Since the conclusion of the 40th ASM and the transmission of the resolutions, we were able to meet with them, but I'd like to highlight one very important office that was one of the first few which responded. It was the office of Senator Edgardo Sani Angara. We did not campaign for him, but he won. So I'm happy he won. He is quite a champion of science and technology in the Senate. So we are continuing the discussion on talent retention, procurement law, and Senator Angara's office, including the senator, got very interested on the blue economy, on the Philippines' potential for the blue economy. So for that particular interest, let me go back to that slide. He came up with a resolution. It's a resolution 1017, and it was approved before the Senate closed before the election. And this is resolution 1017, and a resolution calling for an inquiry on the country's blue economy. So all of us, many of us, will be called for the hearings. In fact, maybe one of these months or days for this inquiry. The next one. So may I define blue economy? I was quite lucky that I think I saw the Dean of Governance of the University of Ateneo University. I saw him, Dr. I saw him. And we were there accompanying the Department of Foreign Affairs in the Blue Economy meeting in China. We were the advisors to the Department of Foreign Affairs. So after that, there were a series of meetings, and this was the Changwon Declaration in 2012. So blue economy is defined as a practical, ocean-based economic model using green infrastructure and technologies, innovative financing mechanisms, and proactive institutional arrangements for meeting the twin goals of protecting our oceans and coasts and enhancing its potential contribution to sustainable development, including improving human well-being and reducing environmental risk and ecological scarcities. So very much appropriate for the Philippines and our neighbors, of course. The next slide. The next slide. Okay. A number of our neighbors are now developing the potentials of their blue economy. May I cite China, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And it was very appropriate for Senator Angara to be excited on this. Okay, so we had a paper, and it came out in 2017, but we actually were ready for it even in 2015. It came out together with another paper by PEMC on blue economy. This is quite well cited now, may I say. Natutuwa ako, hindi lang scientist ang bumabasa, pati maraming tao, including legislators. So the blue economy industries include fisheries and aquaculture, ports, shipping and marine transport, tourism, resorts and coastal development, oil and gas, coastal manufacturing, seabed mining, renewable energy, marine biotechnology. The keynote speech talked about biotechnology, and the ship-borne species would have a lot of potential for this. Marine technology and environmental services. May I go back to that? I'm not yet through with the blue economy. Okay, so we were able to, in that paper, we did with several co-authors, included one economist, our Secretary of NEDA, at present, and Dr. Mendoza, who is the Dean of Governance of Ateneo University. So we gave values and suggested the management of our Philippine marine resources towards a prosperous ocean-based economy. So this is going to be developed, meaning we're going to have another forum, NAST-wide, meaning all the divisions of the NAST will be involved in a forum, and we will be inviting the different government agencies in the discussion of this blue economy for the Philippines. Okay, the next one. And then the Department of Energy also responded to the NAST request for a meeting. In fact,